Good afternoon. This is the official call to order for the Urbana Public Arts and Culture Commission. We need to take a roll call, please.
Excellent. Commissioner Fuller,
Present.
Commissioner Headland,
Present.
Commissioner Modica is excused, Commissioner Rose is excused, Commissioner Buckman,
Present.
Commissioner Shine is excused, excuse me, that was our third excuse, and then Commissioner Pinilla.
Present.
And Commissioner Macon.
Present.
Excellent. So we are going to move the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting to next month, just to ensure better quorum and give us a little more time to review them. So I believe the additions to the agenda will be an additional grant presentation. Jim O'Brien of CU Poetry Group will be presenting the 2020 Urbana Arts Grant, Urbana Poetry Walk. And I'm happy to introduce them again at that time.
Great. Do we have any public input, Rachel?
No, we do not.
Okay, so moving right along. Well, it's time for the staff report, assisted by your able associate producer.
Yeah, so first of all, greetings everyone. I'm sorry to be a voice and a phone this evening. Many of you may have heard I had an injury on Thursday and I am laid up with my leg above my heart at home. So you've got me on the phone this evening. So Stephanie McMahon, Economic Development Supervisor, is going to assist me by advancing slides. So as soon as you're ready, Steph, I'm ready to launch into it.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm on your first slide.
Excellent. So this is our June staff report for the Urbana Arts and Culture Program. We can go to the first slide. First and foremost, I always begin with some staffing updates and the impact of COVID-19. The Urbana Arts and Culture Coordinator continues to use a hybrid schedule in accordance with the Community Development Office's plan to limit the number of staff working in the office at once. We continue to follow COVID-19 guidance. We have received a number of applications for our part-time program specialist position reported upon at a previous meeting. The process has been delayed and no interviews scheduled to date. Any questions should be directed to Human Resources. The Urbana Arts and Culture Program did receive a $4,500 Illinois Arts Council Summer Youth Employment Grant to hire 2 high school students to work on the program over the summer. The Urbana Arts and Culture Program continues to follow local public health guidance in response to COVID-19. However, we have returned to majority in-person events and programs making use of masks and social distancing. Some events and meetings continue to be held virtually, and we do continue to share as much as we're able relief program information, resources for local artists and businesses. I also want to acknowledge that Frank Modica, though unable to attend this evening, this would have been his final Arts and Culture Commission meeting. So we are going to invite him as a guest to our July meeting so that we can recognize him for his service on the Urbana Arts and Culture Commission. So we'll hold our sort of applause and well wishes for Frank till next meeting. But I do want to make a comment that we have 2 vacancies on the commission that are regular full-time seats, and then we do still have vacancies for our teen seat. I know that we've received some applications, so I imagine that we will have some appointments by next month. However, the teen seat still needs to be pushed further. So if you do know any teens, encourage them to apply to be the first ever teen on our Urbana Arts and Culture Commission. Steph, you can go to the next slide. And actually go ahead and skip the next one and go to arts grants. So this is our updates on current projects. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. Okay, we continue to utilize the Neighborly software in grant tracking. So far that's going really well. In 2022, we have funded a total of 30 projects spanning theater, dance, film, visual arts, public murals, and more. We also funded a record number of festivals to take place in downtown Urbana later this year. All grant recipients were offered an orientation meeting with the Arts and Culture Coordinator to go over guidelines in reporting, expectations around marketing, and increasing and supporting accessibility, and other best practices. We do have a number of 2021 and 2020 Urbana Arts Grant recipients that have been very recently able to complete programs after previous postponements due to COVID-19, as well as many 2022 projects already underway. Just this past weekend featured Pops on the Prairie by Urbana Pops Orchestra, Fiddle Weekend by the Community Center for the Arts, and more recently too, which you'll hear about, is Poems Across Urbana by the Urbana Free Library. You'll also notice that the Rose Bowl in downtown Urbana continues to offer free weekend aftermarket concerts scheduled to follow Urbana Market as part of their Urbana Live grant-funded programming. Next slide. This slide should be about the Urbana Sculpture Project. We have had an absence of a national call through the Public Art League. As many of you may know, there's been some changes in leadership with Public Art League, so they put a pause on the national call for sculptures. So in lieu of that, we renewed our sculptures for another year. That includes Peek Between the Trees by Mark Krucke, Ice Pops by Craig Gray, and both sculptures, along with What is the Good by Greg Stallmeyer, will be repaired and restored this month as part of the renewal agreement. If you went by Urbana Free Library to view Stranger Reduction Zone, which is a part of our permanent collection, you might have noticed that the art label was worse for the wear, so we also replaced that label today. So a lot of upgrades to our sculptures are happening. Moreover, Races by Bobby Joe Scribner was renewed by a generous donation from Eric Robeson of Public Art League. The long-term plan for this sculpture is to move it to the southeast corner of Illinois and Vine Streets later this year after our Great Art Doors sculpture is uninstalled. Which brings me to the Great Art Doors. Next slide. So the Great Art Doors invites art in public spaces to inspire engagement, reflect humility, and provide a sense of belonging. This program, it's as just a reminder, is a really unique collaboration between the University of Illinois Spurlock Museum, Urbana Park District, Champaign Park District, the Urbana Arts and Culture Program, and 40 North. We teamed together to offer 11 selected artists a $1,000 stipend to create artwork in 11 designated locations between Urbana and Champaign. The artwork should spark dialogue and will be on display very soon. The installs are happening in the next couple of weeks. We are kind of trying to evade the heat right now, but the installations are going to be occurring this month, and they will stay on display through November. This cycle, 6 artists have been selected for display in the city of Urbana, including Urbana Park District Parks and Community Gardens. The 6th location is the southeast corner in Vine Street, here next to the city building. We do have a full list of locations in Urbana and Champaign included in your written report, in case you want to know the locations for this cycle. Some have been repeated, but we've added a couple parks as well. And then for our 6th site, this one sponsored by the Urbana Arts and Culture Program here at the City Building, we will feature the work of Kathy Mysick, an acrylic painter. And I'll speak a little bit more about her in just a moment. We can go to the next slide. Our Urbana Utility Box Mural Program, launched by the City of Urbana's Arts and Culture Program, invites the vibrant work of local artists to be installed on select utility boxes throughout the city, turning the ordinary into extraordinary works of art. The full collection includes 4 pieces now on display. Urbana's latest utility box mural is now on display at Urbana Park District's Lake House in Crystal Lake Park in Urbana. Quiet Men 3 by Lisa Kessler is a vibrant piece comprised of acrylic paint and collage. Lisa Kessler Studio's mixed media works on paper and canvas integrate printmaking, collage, and painting. You can see this piece now at Crystal Lake Park. Next, however, we have a new utility box that will be installed in July, Cloudscape 7 by Christopher Morris, which will be installed at the southeast corner of Race and Griggs Street in downtown Urbana. The public is invited to attend a ribbon cutting and unveiling ceremony on Friday, July 15th at 4 p.m. This, again, is being promoted through our newsletter as well as our social media pages, so stay tuned for more there. Next slide. Next, we have sponsored murals in Urbana. I want to mention that a number of murals are now gracing the windows and walls of downtown Urbana buildings. The recent Reading is Magic mural pictured here by Langston Olson together with the community was installed last month at Cunningham Township Supervisor's Office. The installation involved the participation of over 65 community members, and the resulting artwork celebrate Urbana's artistic and cultural diversity. A ribbon cutting and unveiling ceremony was attended by over 100 community members, marking our biggest unveiling celebration to date. The mural was funded by an Urbana Arts and Culture grant given to the Urbana Free Library and additional support from the Urbana Free Library Foundation. Go to the next slide, and I'll use this slide to talk about the next few. A new mural is underway at Rose Bowl Tavern in downtown Urbana. Prairie Roses by Kinsey Fitzgerald is sponsored by former Urbana Arts and Culture Commission Chair Pat Salmon. Pat dedicated $3,000 in donation funding to support downtown murals this year. Prairie Roses will span the north side of the building and will be completed this month. The mural pays homage to native plant life and the growth of live music at the venue. You can see this actually being installed right now if you go around Rose Bowl this week. Rafael Blanco, an Illinois-based artist who hails from Aurora, recently visited the Urbana Adult Education Center to meet with students whose likenesses will appear in this Urbana Arts and Culture grant-funded mural scheduled for installation on the center building later this month. The mural is organized in collaboration with the Center and Urbana School District 116. It will highlight the diversity of Urbana Adult Education Center's student body and celebrate the work of this important local education program. Students were photographed with Rafael, and their likenesses will appear. If you're not familiar with Rafael Blanco's work, go to rafael-blancoart.com, and you'll see some beautiful examples of his murals throughout the United States. Local artist Lisa Kessler will be installing a vibrant abstract mural on the north side of 25 O'Clock Brewing Company with the support of an arts grant. The mural aims to be a colorful addition to the building that celebrates the local brewery. A ribbon cutting and unveiling celebration will be announced next month. And with the support of an Urbana Arts grant, local artist Echo will be installing an augmented reality mural on the front facade of Broadway Food Hall. This unique and groundbreaking mural will incorporate augmented reality technology, allowing the viewer to witness the mural come to life when viewing it through a device. The mural will be installed during the month of July, and a ribbon cutting and unveiling celebration will follow. Next slide, please. Cinema and Sound, Urbana's summer outdoor movie and music series will return to Boneyard Creek Crossing on Thursday, July 14th at 7:30 p.m., featuring a dance performance from Urbana Dance Company with musical and light installation accompaniment by Harsh, followed by a screening of Pina at 8:30 p.m. The event will feature food trucks and the Champaign County History Museum's historic popcorn truck. Now, Pina, if you're unfamiliar, is about Pina Bausch, a famous dance choreographer, and it is a documentary, but it's absolutely, if you haven't seen it, here's your chance. Next slide. Programs. We are currently underway with the Urbana Poet Laureate search for the next Poet Laureate. However, I do have to take a moment to proudly report on the impact of the program for past laureates. So, Phil relocated to Phoenix, Arizona to work a role that incorporates arts practice, actually working now in a way that both combines nursing and her creative writing in a new job. She was recently awarded the title of 2022 American Academy of Poets Fellow, a national distinction. Her work was most recently published for Colored Girls Who Have Weathered Their Storms, a new poetry collection. Also, former Poet Laureate Will Rieger released his second book of poetry, Kaleidoscope, is participating in as a poetry workshop facilitator in a poetry walk, and recently released the Postcard Poetry Project, a collection of poetry and artwork from local writers and artists. We are receiving project design poems and artwork commemorating our local rivers and streams. Next slide. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, maybe just make sure you stay on the speaker. It's been going in and out a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to try to talk as close to the mic as I can.
That's better.
Next up is Urbana Poet Laureate Denilah Nash. So that's the next slide. This is sponsored with Urban Word NYC. Just want to make an announcement that Denilah was selected and has begun inaugural Poet Laureate. Denilah is a writer and spoken word artist from Urbana. For over 3 years, she's been a foundational member of the Writers of Oya, a spoken word artist and writers program for young girls of color. She has performed original poetry in local, regional, and national venues, including Soul on Sunday, Talks with Tari, CI Living, Sounds Like Community, Art Now, Pygmalion, Hood Vote, and other civic events. She's been a feature of the United Ways Teen Summit, Black Voices Theater production, and 2 National African American Parent Involvement Day performances. Her poetry was published in Unmasked, a collection of poetry from the Writers of Oya, and its subsequent audiobook. She is the 2021 MLK Junior Creative Expressions competition winner and presented her own workshop, Spittin' the Unspeakable, using slam poetry to cope with trauma at the National Guild for Community Arts Educators. She is a phenomenal young person. She's 15 years old. She plays flute and oboe and spends time with her family when she's not writing. But one of her big goals for this year, which I encourage all commissioners and those listening to cheer her on about, is publishing her first poetry book, her first solo feature-length poetry book. Next slide, please. Next, we'll talk briefly about Young Artist Studio. The Urbana Free Library and Urbana Arts and Culture Program continue to collaborate to offer these arts education programs for kids 5 and up. Our most recent program in June was Music, 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 featuring local violinist and violist Cindy Osai, who led participants through musical activities and a demonstration. Young participants were given the opportunity to hold a violin and viola, and activities encouraged an appreciation for rhythm, music notation, and a love of music. The July workshop is a special feature. We are going to collaborate with Illinois Shakespeare Festival for a production of Much Ado About Quite a Lot, which is Nancy Steele Brokaw and Lori Adams as part of Illinois Shakespeare Festival's Theater for Young Audiences. This performance will actually be in Boneyard Creek Crossing with a rain location of the library. And we're very excited to invite people to come out and picnic and see some live theater. Next up is Art Now. Next slide. Art Now will feature Denilah Nash in its upcoming episode. We recently filmed it together with our UPTV partners. And of course, it behooves me to mention that in recognition of the film and production work of Art Now, Urbana Public Television was recently awarded the Award of Merit at the Best of the Midwest Media Conference. This is in fact the second time that UPTV has received this recognition specifically for Art Now, our production created jointly with the Urbana Arts and Culture Program. So big shout out to Barema, who's there with you somewhere, and make sure to give him your congratulations. A couple of things before we wrap up. There is an event taking place, a series of events between July 29th and 31st by Raw Tools, an organization that comes together to envision creative solutions to ending gun violence, turning guns into garden tools at the center of their work. Their work encourages storytelling for local communities as they grieve gun violence and work to formulate solutions. The events taking place in Urbana and Champaign invite the community to participate in transformative conversation. The Urbana Arts and Culture Program will participate in promoting the Sunday event at Cunningham Township, focused on arts and community activities focused on creative change for people of all ages. You'll see some more information coming out about that program. Now, I'm very proud to say, next slide, that the Urbana Arts and Culture Program is teaming up with CUMTD to pilot a new public arts initiative called Art in Transit. This will invite local artists who have selected artwork, local artists to have their artwork selected for display on an Urbana bus shelter. This first pilot program will feature the bus shelter at the corner of Illinois and Race Streets, adjacent to the Urbana Free Library. Selection and installation will occur later this summer. You can also share the next slide, Stephanie, which shows some images of what this could look like. So we're very excited about this new opportunity for local artists and this new collaboration with MTD. All right, next slide. The Artists of the Corridor installations have resumed. We have 2, one currently at the Urbana City Building and one at the Urbana Free Library. Dee Brown, A Visual History, a collection of photographs of the life of celebrated author of Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee and former University of Illinois professor Dee Brown, will be on display later this month at the Urbana Free Library. Art is the Bridge is a collection of acrylic paintings by Kathy Meisick and is on display now at the Urbana City Building in conjunction with her soon-to-be installed Great Art Doors sculpture. Both exhibitions will be on display throughout the summer. And I do need to note that the City of Urbana will have construction done on construction work to be completed on the hallway later this summer. So at that time, exhibits will be put on pause until the work is completed. So that's just a heads up. Next slide. The Urbana Arts and Culture Program launched the new Street Bowl Banner Art Initiative. This initial, so you may have seen these around downtown. These are our new Street Bowl pole banners called Art Thrives banners. The selected artists include Carly Upchurch, Black Mao, which is Kamal Grantham and Stacey Robinson, Beth Darling, Ralph Rother, Kay Hieronymus W., Phil Strang, our very own Mark Anthony Macon, and Eka. Street pole banners are now on display, and please take a look at them. If you take any photos, please hashtag them Art Thrives, and we'll see them in our social media accounts. Last but not least, we continue to work, next slide. We continue to work with Imagine Urbana to support comprehensive planning efforts around the arts for the next 20 years. And my hope is that the Imagine Urbana team will come to our next meeting to present on what they've found so far, because they've built a really wonderful page of information about the arts. One more slide, well, arguably two more, but Americans for the Arts, we continue to use this as a resource. I keep talking about it every month, but it is something we give out to artists who are asking about relief information. So if you or anyone you know are asking about grants, sponsorships, scholarships, resource and relief information, this is a great place to point them. And our last slide I want to share is just some pictures from this last month. So if you're on this screen, it should have about 5 pictures together. And they show in the bottom right corner, for example, our local cinema gallery owner, Carolyn Baxley, at the Urbana Art Walkabout, which happened recently. In the middle there is an audience at the performance studio, which is at the Urbana Free Library. Kinsey on the far left, standing in front of her mural as it's being sketched out on Rose Bowl. And then those 2 pictures on the very top come from a program done in collaboration with the New American Welcome Center, which focused on offering bilingual resources. There was featured both a workshop that was done in Spanish, as well as puppet making and activities for young kids that invited people to learn about COVID-19, its impact, and how to promote wellness among families. This was given directly to majority immigrant families in Urbana living in the Ivanhoe neighborhood. So we were excited to be a part of that. And that is the end of the presentation. Thank you for your time. I'll take any questions you have.
It would appear we don't have any questions at the moment, Rachel. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a lot to keep track of. You do a great job.
Thank you.
Well, I know we have some excited audience members who are ready to make their presentations. So our first grant presentation today will be with Jean Mendoza. She will present the final report for the 2021 Urbana Arts Grant, Juxtaposition, the Life and Words of Durango Mendoza. Welcome, Jean.
Do I need to talk a little close to this? I think you can turn it on at the base. Yes, very good.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
It's a little better, yeah.
Okay.
Probably
I'll
stay
try to
close to
speak
it.
up. I'm not a super loud. Should I take off my mask?
Okay, sure.
All right. I'm going to start with a little context, kind of to orient myself in a way about the journey of this grant. My husband, Durango Mendoza, was a social service administrator for the Department of Children and Family Services for many years, but he was also an accomplished artist and writer. After he died in 2020, our children and I felt that we very strongly felt that we wanted to keep sharing his art and writing with the wider world. It had been a couple of years since his photos and sculptures had been had left the house. And even though he had enjoyed doing that, and he really felt energized and inspired when he could talk to people about his work and about their work, as I started thinking about how we might put together a retrospective of his art and writing that we could exhibit somewhere in Urbana, which had been his home for 25 years, I thought to ask Rachel Storm, if she had any suggestions for where we might do that. She let me know that she really liked the idea a lot and that she would like to help make that happen. And before too long, she suggested that I apply for a grant, and it took me a while, but I did, with moments to spare. And because Durango liked to speak of his work as a juxtapositioning process where he would put together things that perhaps seemed unlikely to be together, we had to call it juxtapositioned. And a few weeks later, after I applied, we were ecstatic to learn that the proposal was accepted in the amount of $1,000. See if I can. Okay, good. Okay, fulfillment of the grant was to consist of an exhibit of his assemblages and photography augmented by selected quotes from his writing and biographical notes in one or more Urbana venues. Second was production of a multimedia DVD featuring recorded talks by Durango and readings of his stories and poetry, coordinated with visual elements such as his photographs. Third element was his public reception, a public reception. And fourth was a writing workshop and an assemblage workshop. That's actually 2, so there should be 5 things, but anyway, there it is. Ultimately, in addition to the grant from Urbana Arts and Culture Program, I got a grant from my parents, surprise, surprise, and another $100 from my friends Marcia and Scott Burns. We got in-kind support from the Art Coop, Urbana Free Library, and the Urbana City Building. And I don't know how much of this I should do in terms of non-monetary support, but we had a lot of volunteer help in order to get things done, including my friends Nancy and Jack McIntyre, Carol Inskeep and Matt Murray, and Rachel Storm and Nico, who helped us literally move things. My son Thomas, who did some recording and some moving things back home. Family members who read for the DVD. Ashanti Files and Will Rieger both were very helpful in meeting with me to help me prepare for the online workshop that we did, and Kate Insalia, whose role I will discuss in a minute. Okay, this is the, the post that Rachel put on Instagram promoting the exhibit, and you can see how beautiful that work was, the way it was put together. It was just gorgeous and eye-catching and fantastic. We ended up with 3 Urbana venues. The Art Coop for August of 2021, the Urbana City Building for August 2021 through March 2022, and Urbana Free Library, August 2021 through March 2022. The reason that they were extended in the City Building and the library is that the Artists of the Corridor program had to be kind of put on hold for COVID reasons. Okay, at Art Coop we had Durango's large assemblages. We had his photographs, including his largest ones, the largest prints. Some of his paintings, which went back to like 1964, some of them. So it really was a retrospective. We had, back that far, and then we had photographs that he had taken in 2020 as well. We had a listening and viewing station, where we had the DVD, and I'll say more about that later. And then text blocks with biographical information and quotes from Durango's writing. At the City Building, we had wall assemblages and one of the larger assemblages. And on the right here, you see the text block that we had that shows Durango putting together the sculpture that was featured in one of the corners right outside the door here. A number of his photographs, and again, text blocks. juxtaposition at the Urbana Free Library included photographs, and for the month of September only, some small assemblages that were in the exhibit case, and again, text blocks. Okay, the multimedia DVD was the collaborative work between me and Urbana videographer Sam Ambler of Ambler Video and other members of our family. It features Durango as a speaker or reader, including the video of his 1997 Friday Forum talk, The Creek Runs Through It. We had audio-only readings of short stories and poems that were read by family members and others. I'm starting to tear up. I'm sorry. We had a translation. Of one of his stories into the Muskogee language by our niece and one of her friends who are both Muskogee speakers. And it was read in Creek, in Muskogee by Galen Cloud. I'm so sorry, I didn't expect to do this. Okay, we also coordinated the readings with visual elements such as photographs from the juxtapositioned exhibit, kind of using the Ken Burns effect. And we made the DVD accessible to the public at a listening station at Art Coop during the month of August. The closing reception at Art Coop featured an open house at the Art Coop Gallery, refreshments in the Lincoln Square corridor, a reading of a poem by Joy Harjo, who is the U.S. Poet Laureate, read by Kate Insilia, and an interpretive dance by one of her students. It was just fantastic. There's a picture coming up. I did some commentary and read selected items from his essays. And then Barema did the video documentation for Urbana Arts. And I lost count. I actually did count. I think we had 30 people there. I'm not absolutely sure, but I think, which wasn't too bad for, COVID. And on the right there is the poster for the closing exhibition, or closing reception, sorry. Okay, the photo that's in the center there is Kate reading and her student dancing. And that young woman is fantastic. And I wish I could remember her name, but I don't. And then down below is a scene inside the gallery. I had agreed to do 2 workshops, one writing workshop and one assemblage workshop for the grant. Because of COVID, we went online with the, with the writing workshop. That was, I would say, heavily co-sponsored by Urbana Free Library with lots of help from Carol Inskeep. And we ended up, in fact, doing it at her house, doing the Zoom from her house. We had 5 participants. And, pardon me, people could pick up a brown paper bag with 2 objects in it, one natural object and one human-made. The reason we called it The Object Speaks is that Durango used to talk about things that he found speaking to him, and he would collect them and take them home and put them into his sculptures. So we let people think about objects. Oh, and I talked a lot about what's on that already. Okay. The assemblage workshop has to be done in person, and we had to postpone it due to COVID. I'll do it at some point. Just a quick rundown of local businesses and organizations that I made use of or that participated in some way. Art Coop, Urbana Free Library, Urbana City Building, Ambler Video, U-Haul of Urbana, Twin City Movers, Meyer of Urbana, International Galleries, Walgreens on University, did all my photographic needs, all my print needs. Smile Politely. There was a wonderful article by Deborah Domal about the exhibit, and it just brings tears to my eyes when I think of it. Native American House provided a little publicity. American Indian Studies distributed some publicity. Champagne Lowe's, Champagne Michaels, PM Productions in Champagne did a lot of our VHS to digital, and Minuteman Press did a lot of the, all the text blocks and so on. I wanted to tell you that we've sort of gone beyond juxtaposition, gone beyond the months that we were able to spend in Urbana. One of my son's friends, who's a librarian at the Braidwood Public Library, liked what he saw and asked if we would exhibit some things there. So we did for 3 weeks in March and April. The assemblage from end to beginning, also known as The River, is now on display at Busey Bank through July. And I did an interview with Rachel about Durango's art for Art Now. Also, the catalog project, which is basically a book about juxtaposition. It's funded by my parents, surprise, surprise, and a friend from Colorado. And it's going to incorporate images from the exhibit with print versions of Durango's short stories and essays and lectures and poems. It'll be self-published and printed by Minuteman. I'm going to cry again, but thank you so much for the opportunity to do this. It was a joy to fulfill the generous grant. And a special thanks to Rachel and to Carol Inskeep for their inspiration, encouragement, support, and friendship, the folks at Art Coop for their hard work and generosity, and to Deborah Dummel for her beautiful and moving Smile Politely article about the exhibit. Thank you.
Can I
Okay.
say something briefly?
Yeah.
Jean, I'm so lucky to be there with you.
Oh,
I'm
Rachel, I
so
can't
grateful
hear
that we
you.
were able- I'm so grateful that we were able to have this exhibit.
Oh,
It was, I think, the most meaningful thing that went on in my life during the pandemic.
oh,
So thank you for the opportunity of allowing us to share in Durango. What a gift. So thank you so very much, and thank you for coming and being brave and telling your story here today, because I know it's difficult, but I just commend you for it, and I really am grateful that we were able to also have his work on display. It was an honor.
it was incredible. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. For our next presentation, we have our own commission member, Lori Fuller, who at the time when she received her grant was not on the commission. She's giving her final report for her 2021 Urbana Arts Grant called Art Made. Thank you.
Okay. I would first like to start by saying I'm very proud to be a part of this community. And in all the grants that I've worked with the Urbana Arts and Culture grants, I've had the pleasure of working with very dedicated people who are passionate about serving the community and very passionate about arts. And their passion has just inspired me to continue to do this kind of work. For this, For this project, I had worked with Sherry and Nancy over at Pace, and phenomenal ladies who are very dedicated and encouraging to others to try art for the first time. I also worked with Julie over at the Senior Resource Center, and she is just a wonderful person who is just also very passionate about helping the older adults in the community. And then also I worked with Minuteman Press, who was a publisher of the magazine that I'm going to talk about for my art grant. So this was a year-long art project that I worked with. And so the grant funds were used to provide participants at PACE and the Senior Resource Center a 20-page magazine, which I gave examples out, and it's also available on my website that's free to download, so other people can enjoy it as well. So it came with a 20-page magazine called Art Made, and it was a quarterly magazine, so there were 4 issues throughout the year. art supplies that accompanied each one of the magazines. And then I did a video so they could play the video and have the magazine and do art projects. And then there was also availability for Zoom, and that was for one-on-one or for group sessions. Very last issue of Art Made was focused on acrylic painting, and so I actually taught 2 classes, one at the Circle of Friends, and then also another class over at Pace. So each of the magazines were 20 pages, and so it started with a couple of projects that the art supplies that, you know, the participants were able to follow through with the art supplies. And there also, at the very end of the magazine, was an artist spotlight, and this is part of the, you know, focusing on an artist that's in the community who may be trying art for the first time and was brave enough to share their work and inspire others to also try artwork. So each of my magazines was focused on a specific theme. So some of them were focused on watercolor, flowers, doodling, and acrylic paint. So for this particular grant, it was a quarterly magazine, and it was for 50 participants, so it was a total of 200 magazines. Some of the participants may have just, you know, signed up for registered for one. Some of them may have registered for all 4. And all of the registration was taken care of with the, you know, staff over at Pace and also the Senior Resource Center. So they not only, you know, helped register participants, they also delivered the art kits that came with it. And then also was able to connect me for the Zoom or in-person workshops. So this grant is not my first grant with the Urbana Arts and Culture, but I have enjoyed every single one of them, and I continue to, you know, to, I guess, build upon my previous grants. So this one had a tremendous impact, like, on my artistic and teaching development. So I was learning to, you know, design art instruction in a virtual environment. And so that was, you know, challenging, you know, for me because I'm a very hands-on teacher. I've had many years of teaching experience at the public schools and also adults and, you know, and people with dementia. And it's very hard to teach in a virtual environment. And so I wanted to create a magazine that they were able to do this independently. And so some of the participants may not have had internet, so they may not be able to use the video. So the video was just meant to accompany the magazine and not just, you know, so the magazine was really meant to stand alone. I was, you know, I received a lot of positive feedback from the participants. And I know that, you know, I tried to, you know, incorporate different types of art activities. You know, some folks like to draw, some folks like to paint, so I was trying to do a lot of variety with the themes. So I felt like the project had a positive impact on the community. You know, several participants were trying art for the first time, and so that was truly special. You know, that they were willing to, you know, to try one of the art projects and, you know, feel good and bring confidence about that. So there were 4 issues of Art Made. The very first one focused on watercolor, and so the instruction inside was a step-by-step on how to do a watercolor of a cat looking out of the window. What I enjoyed most about, you know, creating these magazines is that it wasn't just a step-by-step for the project. It was also opened the door for a lot of creative thinking, you know, how to do other ways to do this. So they, the art kit that they received along with the magazine allowed them to do multiple projects. So it wasn't just stopping and starting and having it look like the you know, whatever it was in the magazine. The second one, which you have as an example, focused on flowers, and the art kit for this one was colored pencil. And I'm actually a colored pencil artist, and it's my favorite medium to use. But this also came with a greeting card that had an envelope with a stamp. So they were encouraged to design a greeting card for a friend, and then all they really needed to do was place the address on it, and it had a stamp that was ready to go. Also, all of the magazines had some kind of activity or game. So that was either like a word search or a crossword puzzle. And this Art Made, the flower one, had an additional game in there to how many bees, because I had bees all in the picture, so it was very interactive. My third issue had to do with doodling. And I have been doodling probably since I was able to hold a pencil, and I still do that in some of the meetings that I attend. And it's just a fun activity, and I feel like doodling is an art form that's underrated. There's not a lot of pressure, and it's not stress. It's just, you know, a fun way to just have fun with a pencil or pen. So I created this character called Doodle Dog, and so it's a Labradoodle cartoon character, and then his fur is made of doodles. And so throughout this issue, which I actually don't have any extra ones to share today, was encouraging fun drawing. And it was a lot of jokes and fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun in this one. The most current one that I had, Art Made, is the one that I just got finished with, and this is focusing on acrylic painting, and inside it shows you how to do a field of flowers with acrylic painting. So this was an in-person class, so anybody who attended and registered for the class received a canvas and paint and brushes, and we did a step-by-step, but I also opened the door for creativity. And so when I was at the Circle of Friends teaching this class, we had 12 different designs, and they were all very beautiful, and I just really enjoyed this part of it. And like I said, each one of the issues focused a local artist, and this one, the very last issue, focused, our artist spotlight was on Rita, who was just very inspirational with all of her artwork. In fact, 3 of her images are on this last issue, 2 of them, and then also the background of the I'm still actually working on Art Made, and so I'm doing this as a monthly issue now, and I'm working with the Senior Resource Center to continue, serving the senior citizens in the Champaign County area. This current one is actually focused on lemons and sunshine, or sunshine and lemons. The next issue that I'm working on is called Raining Cats and Dogs, so there's going to be a sculpture along with drawing and painting animals. And then my final one issue that I'm also working on for September is going to be looking at the past. And so I'm going to hopefully pair up with one of the historical museums in town and do a short interview, and also learn how to draw some of the objects from the past. So it's going to be very exciting. So I really wanted to say thank you for the funding for this. It was a very fun project, and I want to continue doing stuff like this in the future.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Are you getting a lot of feedback from the places where you have these programs held, and what do they see the feedback? Do you get feedback from them about the tenant, the residents?
So I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and I've asked for anything that that you would like to see in the magazine. I haven't gotten any suggestions, so I'm always open to suggestions for future issues. And even after, I want to keep continuing this, and actually I'm really interested in also working with PACE and finding funding to print the magazines. Minuteman Press is the one that printed the magazines for us. They did a fabulous job, and I want to continue to work with them to have magazines available and art supplies for PACE as well, because it was so much fun. It really was, and I really would look forward to someday teaching more in-person classes over there.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? Comments?
Yeah, I loved looking through the magazines. I feel like this is such an interesting project because it's working with senior citizens that are typically fairly isolated, and this could be a way that can reach them. I really love the idea of having the envelope to send the art
Yeah.
to.
I have to I have to thank Rachel for a lot of her support and she's the one that inspired me to start to write my first art grant, and so which kind of got the wheels started moving this forward. But eventually I would love to continue to do a magazine like this and offer it to the community, and it's just a matter of finding the funding. So this is just a perfect project. I love it. I love it so much.
You may have to sell ads in your magazine to help fund it. Or do you want to do something like that?
I'm sorry.
You may have to, would you consider selling advertising space in your magazine?
For fundraising, I would do that, because I would love to, have the magazine available for more adults in the community. I feel like it has a lot to offer. I feel like, I have people in my own family that are very isolated, and, because they may have lost their spouse, and so it's just really hard to reach them. And I feel like having a magazine with art supplies may just provide a little bit of happiness, or maybe find a talent that's hidden. or, you know, I mean, there's just so much, their arts can benefit so much, you know, and I want to continue providing that for them.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
Real quick, I just want to, can you all hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Real quick, I just have to also shout out Lori, because I, admittedly, if you said this, I might not have caught it because it's going a little in and out for me, but Lori is also pursuing her PhD now in art and disability studies. And I just want to acknowledge that, celebrate you, and it thrills me because I know that you'll continue this important work you're doing, reaching populations that are impacted by mobility needs and a variety of other things that have to do with aging. So just congratulations, Lori.
Thank you.
Now a U of I PhD student.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's time. We do have our fourth presenters here for their report. And I believe Rachel said she would like to have the honor of introducing.
Wait, we have the third one.
Just
Oh,
in
wait,
case
I'm
it was
sorry,
helpful. So this last
I'm sorry,
presentation
no,
comes from Jim
excuse me.
O'Brien of CU Poetry
Yeah,
Group,
hold on.
presenting the 2020 Urbana Arts Grant Urbana Poetry Walk.
Rachel, I goofed. I didn't look carefully. Patricia Leon is next on the lineup.
There you
Her
go.
final report for the 2021 Urbana Arts Grant, Enacting Hope and Togetherness mural. I'm so sorry.
I'm happy to do a reprise later. No worries. Go ahead, Patricia.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, first, I just want to say thank you to the Urbana Art Grants Program for this big opportunity that let me work with my kids and with the school community. So, Enacting Hope and Togetherness. The project Enacting Hope and Togetherness began with the shared idea of community engagement and participation. Our community, our students needed the transformational power of creativity now more than ever, and that was one of the main purposes of this project, to engage children and the large community of Leal Elementary School in Urbana to participate in the creation of the collaborative mural project based on the principles of diversity, equity, and cooperation, with the idea of keeping the arts active and moving forward even as we were physically isolated. This project engaged our community in a time of physical distancing with the hope of sharing our experiences of living in a diverse cultural environment. The leader artists provide a series of guide paintings workshops for the school students, volunteer teachers, and parents in order to help engage the school community in the creation of the design of the mural and by offering technical resources. The impact of the grant funds had a vital impact on the development of this project. They were used as a partial support to find and prepare materials necessary to launch the workshops. Furthermore, the grant also enabled to load the equipment and material needed for the quality development of the project. Also, the grant was fundamental to producing the publicity and promotion material needed during the participants' recruitment processes. Thanks to the support of the Urbana Art Grants Program and voluntary donations, we had access to a wide variety of materials to use during the workshop and the production of the actual mural. Leal Elementary School provided the project with a space used during the work project to keep materials. With the assistance of the school principal, Adriana Ochoa, we were offered the required strategic support to develop the project and were allowed to stay and use the school space as needed. This is the gym of the school. Another important collaborating partner was the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies at the University of Illinois, CLACS. The center provided us with all the printing materials and photocopies that the project required to promote and disseminate the information about the workshops. As part of the project, CLACS has agreed to support the design and printing of a bookmark presenting the final result of the mural, as well as the Leal PTA Association supported the bookmark printing. This promotional piece promote this kind of extra communal activities students undertake in our community. Working with the students, partners, was very important throughout the project. The project had a total of 65 participants between students, parents, and teachers. They were from kindergarten to 5th grade from Leal School. The group included students from different countries. The number of participants at the beginning was 31, then grew up to 65. During the second phase of the project, which included the production of the mural, and overall, we had between 20 to 30 participants during each workshop. This project stretches beyond the experience of teaching how to draw, paint, or create a mural by Leal Elementary School community members. The project engaged the school in a collective artistic creation, providing a space and time to strengthen human relationships. It also was able to integrate not only the community of the school, but most importantly, the surrounding larger community through an integral social activity. Some challenges that I encountered over the duration of my project. The first part of the project was hard to find an opportunity or to engage to work with Leal students or Leal community members because of the COVID pandemic. People resisted working in person. The project was postponed while the situation permitted us to work in person together. I think waiting to start the project was so difficult for me, but while I was waiting, I started planning all the different parts that were integrated into the project. Also, this time of isolation contributes to gather materials. Some materials were donated by community members and friends. Additionally, I create a blog that where I integrate all the mural processes in this website. The project began as soon as the pandemic let us work together. For that reason, the project demanded from the participants and from me a lot of extra time beyond the family environment and effort. The project also established a rigorous routine that became an essential part of our life during its completion period. Listening to the children was important, and promoting their ideas were fundamental. We saw and heard how these kind of basic projects and social practices are really necessary, especially during the pandemic. I set out my goals of working together through collaboration and passing on my skills and ideas about our practice to the school community, but the results after this workshop went beyond my expectation. In the end, the resulting mural art workshop was a model and method of social integration, even when the pandemic still persists. It represented a truly integration between parents, children, and teachers through artistic efforts. The final mural public presentation took place on May 7. As I stated in the project goals, the final artwork solidifies a cross-cultural experience in Urbana City and inserts the collaborative art practice into the public consciousness. This is the bookmark that I create for the inauguration day of the mural. And this is when we cut the ribbon with the kids. There are some of the participants and some guests that we had during the inauguration time. We had the opportunity to share this activity with some commissioners from the city, the Urbana district, the Urbana district,
116.
Yes, thank you. And parents and there are more participants here, the Principal Ochoa, kids that participate. Okay. Well, I believe that building integrated communities that reflect new social realities provide space for dialogues about cultural belonging and community building. I also believe that through the development of this project, I help to integrate the arts within the city of Urbana, creating a sense of place with the purpose of promoting art and culture. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for your constant support in my projects.
And for your hard work.
Yes. There are more pictures here at the end when we was the opening day, the presentation of the mural to all the community members here. And this is the mural that we did together. This is 251 per 48 inches. It's very big.
It's very
For now.
impressive when you see it in person.
Wood panel. Yeah. And this is the blog that I create. I don't know if I can open it. Maybe, I don't know. Yes. This is the blog of the mural. So in this blog you can see, it's in Spanish and in English, and you can see all the process. So the parents and all the community had the opportunity to follow us while we were working together. So there is the last photographs, the partners, all the photographs that we took. This is the first post that the Urbana School District did in Facebook, and also the Urbana Art Grants with the help of Rachel. She did another promotion of the mural. And this is all the different, this is a very significant way that we can see here all the people working together in different areas. We really took advantage of this beautiful and big space working together, because we need to work with the protocol of the COVID, you know. So that kind. Also, one thing that I want to mention is that in the mural reflects this time. So almost all the participants are represented in the mural using the face mask. So this is a kind of representation of this time. This mural is going to be in one of the halls, the principal hall, in front of the main door of the legal school. Yes. This is the sketches. I'm trying to pass very fast because there are many pictures. Here you can see how we display all the materials and, you know, things for the kids, for the parents, working together. It was a very beautiful experience. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Congratulations. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I was just gonna say, sorry, that it's great to see that you incorporating all of the kids into the art, because I think that there's so many different projects that have been sponsored from the city of Urbana, but it's great to see you guys working with all of those kids and having them included, and I think that's something they won't forget.
Mm-hmm. Thank
Sure.
you. Yes, I try to do my best, because I think the voices of the kids needs to be heard. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it came at a much needed time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let me see if I can get this right this time. We have one more presenter.
Okay, should I make the announcement?
Sure, be my
So
guest.
next up is Jim O'Brien. of CU Poetry Group with the 2020 Urbana Arts Grant final report for Urbana Poetry Walk.
Thank you. Hello. So,
Welcome.
thank you. Good to be here. Was initially shooting for last month, but one of our poets, three of the poets had Venmo, but one I had to wait for their check to clear to have all the receipts, as it were. So anyway, 2022 Urbana Poetry Walk that I orchestrated with contributions from Urbana-based poets Janelle Pleasure, Kathy Robinson, Matthew Murray, and Will Rieger, the inaugural poet laureate. And although Kathy lives in Champaign, she's very involved with the Urbana Unitarian Church, so I felt that she qualified. The 2022 Urbana Poetry Walk was on April 2nd, 2022 from 3 to 5. Poems were placed at 4 locations in downtown Urbana: Common Ground Food Co-op, CU CD and Vinyl, Urbana Free Library, and Bohemia. It was set up similar to a scavenger hunt, with the idea that if folks would visit all 4 places, they could come see me at Bohemia, and they were given a poetry book. We had, not going to jump ahead. For marketing, this was our Facebook event. I had nothing but a picture of me to go on, so, because this has never been done before. Now we have lots of pictures of the poetry walk. And it's a summary of what we were hoping people would do. We selected that date. It was Boneyard as well as Mom's Day, so we knew there'd be a lot of traffic in downtown. We wanted folks to get out and see as many places as they could, and it was effective. I met people who had never heard of CUCD, others who didn't know the library was open, so it was nice. We had some print materials. I had a not exactly to scale map on the left that was posted at each place. And then what we were calling the dance step artwork was supplied by none other than Dr. Storm. She's quite the graphic artist. And then the poems. Each of the poems I had printed on a bookmark, and I have a set for each of you afterwards, with the poems on one side and then information on the other, as well as a bio for each poet. The poets were so generous with their time and their works. Matthews and Janelle's have been published. I'm not sure about Kathy's. Will may have written that for the event. This is a picture. So because it all happened simultaneously, and I couldn't be in 4 places at once, I did hire a photographer who went around and took pictures of all the places, which was nice. This is a picture of the setup at Common Ground Food Co-op, which was where Will Rieger's poem Rock Candy was. And then Janelle's poem was at CU CD and Vinyl. Kathleen, well, she goes by Kathy. Kathy Robinson's After the First Snow was at the Urbana Free Library. And Matthew's poem, Crickets, was at Bohemia, which was my home base. So you'll see some books on the left, and each of the poems were set up in these little containers that I got at the Idea Store, and the paper covering also from the Idea Store. Bohemia, as I said, was home base for me. There's me being sassy, waiting for people to come in, and another side of the table. Our photographers were amazing. I'd first put a call out in our arts Facebook page saying, I need a photographer. And when these folks responded, I said, there's no way I can afford you, because they do wedding photographs and big deals. And they said, no, we want to get more involved with the arts. So they did, and here's some obviously staged photos of someone turning in bookmarks and getting a book in return when nothing really happened like that. But here are some actual participants doing what people really did, which was come in, ask questions, ask about the locations, tell me what they know about poetry, what their poetry experiences had been, why poetry was so scary to people, and then at the end they'd say, well, I used to write a little bit myself. And so I encourage them to just get back at it. Poetry's for everybody. The two on the right, the younger one, the woman on the left is a student at the university, and then her mother was down for Mother's Day from maybe Bolingbrook, one of the brooks up there. And they were delighted. I also had some leftover CU poetry tote bags, and obviously they got one of them just for showing up. The end results, we had a steady stream of people come through Bohemia, and in talking with the other hosts, they had people come in as well. Not everybody made it to all 4 locations, but if they showed up at Bohemia with just one other one, I gave them a book. So we distributed 30 books, had positive feedback from the participants as well as from the hosting businesses. Lessons learned, COVID wrecks things. Concern over face-to-face interactions changed the focus of the event. When I first proposed this, it was going to be at Crystal Lake Park at the Pavilion and interactive, where people could write poems and meet people, meet poets and read poems, and then everything got shut down and they closed the pavilions down, and so we had to refocus, and Rachel was very helpful with that. Again, the timing was perfect. Boneyard and Mom's Day brought lots of foot traffic. Another hour would have been great. So we had it from 3 to 5. 2 to 5 looking back, it would have been nice to have another hour, but Bohemia closed at 5, so we had to shut down. I think they closed at 5. Somebody closed at 5, maybe the UFL. But from 2 to 3 was rainy and nasty anyway, so we wouldn't have got a whole lot out of an hour if we'd done it earlier, but you can't predict the weather. I do have a list of thank yous. Dr. Storm for all of her help. My hosts, Jesse at CUCD. Lauren Chambers at the Urbana Free Library was amazing. Sarah Buckman at Common Ground was also very welcoming and set up our display right in a high visible place because they were having a market, a Boneyard Market event. And then Malia at Bohemia was also amazing. She said, move anything you want, go do whatever you want to do. Of course, my poets, Matthew Murray, Kathy Robinson, Janelle Pleasure, and Will Rieger. The Urbana Arts and Culture Program and Arts and Culture Commission for being so supportive of all of the arts, including poetry. A lot of people want to think of the arts in the visual arts sense, but between the Poet Laureate Program and now Youth Poet Laureate Program that you have put in, it's really grateful to see more poetry out in the community, and thank you for funding this project. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Would you do it again?
Possibly. I would support the next Poet Laureate doing it, because then we could have more. I wanted more poets to be able to participate. But with the way things were, I asked them just to send their poems. Ideally, each of the poets would have been at the spot to talk about their poems. Even if it had to be this slimmed down, yeah, I think I would do it again. I love meeting people, talking to people about their experience with poetry, and encouraging them to be more engaged with it any way they can in their lives.
That's great.
Anything else? Okay, I'm going to bring these around after I
Thank you.
do this. And I didn't want to do that.
Well, thank you to all our participants today to share your news and hard work with us. Rachel, we're at the point where it says new business. Do we have any new business to discuss?
We have no new business today.
Okay, thank you. Well, then, under these circumstances, now we're back in person. We have to vote on, have a motion for adjourning the meeting? Or can we just call it, now that we're back in person? Rachel?
Yep, sorry, I was trying to unmute. We just need one person to motion, one person to second, and then all those in favor to say aye.
Thank you very much. So do we hear a motion to adjourn the meeting today?
A motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, we've had a motion and a second. All, aye, say aye. Nay, no nays? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much for being here today. Good to see you all.